is Luke McDonald. I am based out of Atlanta, Georgia. I'm an aspiring actor. Follow my Instagram page at the Polynesian Wolf. Definitely have a star. Definitely to be an A-list actor. Um, my goal though, day to day, is hone my craft, work on because I can't control the star.
That's right.
It's out there. What can I control today? What can I control tomorrow? What what roles, what films can I be in that would keep me one step closer? Who do I surround myself with that can get me closer? Who can I network with? Yes, people like background isn't anything, but I've met and networked with people that have got me on other sets because since sets, what I've noticed, you start seeing the same people over and over again. You see the same PAs, see the same ADs, you see the similar directors.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can make a good impression on them, they'll remember your face for either you're late and you're an asshole, or you're on time, you follow directions, and you're energetic, and you're just a nice person in general. They'll remember you for those two things. And if you can stand out as a nice person who's on time, follows directions, you'll get a lot more calls. Like I've gotten calls just from different sets. Hey, we saw you on Cobra Kai. Hey, we saw you on The Watchmen. Hey, we saw you on Jumanji. We heard that you were on Zombieland. Would you like to work on this with us as a background or as a feature background? And I didn't even reply. I didn't even know those were filmed. And it's just because they remember you from being a nice person. And so that's the best way to network. Don't go in there with an ego. You have no ego. You're a background. Network when appropriate. Be nice and be friendly. Be on time. And you'll work your way up. And just doing that day by day, just trying to focus on my short-term goals of acting classes, experiences on the camera, short films, independent films, auditions. Just trying to get those because if I aim long, I miss short. Get the short ones, and then you eventually, as you build your way up, you'll be able to hit the longer targets.
Yeah.
If you go long first, you'll miss the short ones.
That's right.
So
yeah. Can you watch movies? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, slow and steady wins the race. So
yeah.
You gotta just plug away.
Yeah. Can you watch movies regularly? Like, when you watch, are you watching as an actor or are you watching as a fan?
Both.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. So if I watch a movie for the first time, I'm like, oh man, I know that actor in there. I'm gonna watch it. So I watch it, and I'm like, that was really good. But then I'll watch it a second time, and I'll like, if I'm just watching by myself, I'll stop it, rewind it, and I'll watch scenes that stood out to me. I'm like, all right, why did that scene connect with me so well? How did they connect that scene? How did they make that scene stand out? Why did that scene draw this specific emotion from me? How did it reach to me from a screen? Then being able to break that down, seeing their body movements, their energy, paying attention to their facial expressions, to the energy in their eyes, to the way they deliver their lines, and then paying attention to the camera angles, because not just the actor. If the director and the crew, it comes down to good directing and good camera and lighting work, to give the best. Because an actor can only do so much.
That's right.
But then it comes down to post-production, comes down to the production team. So, they're the unsung heroes of great productions, because without the lighting, without the camera angles, without the zoom, without the lenses, without, everything going on, it would just be a guy talking to someone and just be one angle and it would be flat. But the movements and the lighting just definitely brings out the mood or the energy that was intended.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to give you a sports analogy. Serena right? One of the best
Oh yeah.
tennis players ever, right? Federer, one of the best tennis players
Oh yeah.
ever, right? I think that they were born with a certain skill set and just kind of trained their way to be the greatest. But I think they had to be born with those physical talents. Would you say, and so I guess my question would be, do you think that's the same for acting? Like the Morgan Freemans and the Johnny Depps, who are just incredible actors. Do you think great actors are born, or do you just think that anybody randomly can work their tail off and then become that great?
I feel like it may come easier
Mm,
to some people than others, but you can only get so far on natural talent. Just like in tennis, you can only get so far, but you'll eventually get beaten out by someone who's put in the hard blood, sweat, and tears. Um, I feel like that also applies to acting. You may be more inclined. You may be able to access your emotions easier than other people. But if you want it bad enough, if this is something you really want to do and you work for it, I feel like you'll you'll be as good or better than someone who just relies on their talent. Who just like, hey, I'm naturally good.
mm-hmm.
What is it? Brings me to a movie that I watched, Monsters Inc., Monsters University. Have you seen that?
Yeah, yeah,
Sully,
yeah,
he,
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
the same idea. Sully, he's like, man, I have my family history. We're born scared. I don't have to work. I'll just do the same thing every time because I'm me. Because my family, my dad, or my mom was this, I can just do this. And yes, that works for a while.
Mm-hmm.
But even though what's the little green guy's name? But like he worked his ass off, knew the books inside and out, knew all the techniques, knew everything. While Sully just knew one thing because
That's
he's like,
right.
I don't need to work. I have
Mm-hmm.
the skill. I have the name. I don't need to do anything. But that can only get you so far. Um, and I think that, but it also comes down to a good production.
Yeah,
You
I
know,
agree with that. I agree with that.
so you could be, because every actor has a bad day. You could be a mediocre actor or like a B level actor, but with the right director giving you um, giving you insight, giving you notes, that will definitely help. And that's you could be a naturally talented actor, but with a really bad director, it's still gonna be bad.
Yeah,
With
they'll still have a bad project. Yeah, they'll still
yeah.
have a bad project. Yeah, I agree with that.
So um, it I definitely saw from my experience working with a good director and him giving me that. I talked about the character work, being able to connect with the character, doing the character work, him stopping filming and being like, hey, this, you should do this, try and take it in this direction, try and have this in your head while doing this next take. And
Yeah.
having that direction, having that would definitely, that definitely helps up the production. So yeah, hard work I think always pays off.
Yeah.
Natural talent can only get you so far.
Yeah.
Um, but like Johnny Depp, all of them, just but the ease at which they are able to switch, I feel like some of that is raw talent, um, but it's not beyond being able to be taught. If that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Like it's a lot harder to be able to do that with ease than it would be if you just were naturally able to just be able to switch like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But if you're willing to put in the hard work, I feel like you know you anybody. If I put in the hard work, I feel like I can do it. So how
Yeah.
bad do you want?
Okay. Has all of this been fun so far, man?
Oh man, this has been a blast. I have never done a podcast before, so this is one.
Okay.
Polynesian men really aren't represented right now in the acting business, and he's like,
With the exception of The Rock, right? Or am I mistaken that
yeah.
The Rock is
Well, he's mixed.
okay? Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
So like full blooded, like I'm 100%
Okay.
Polynesian. Both my
Okay.
parents are Polynesian.
Hmm.
Most, but Hollywood. So quick story. I was standing in for a guy who was for his name was Hawaiian dude. So I was standing in for a Hawaiian dude. And so I went on the set and I was like, hey, how are you? I'm standing in for you today. I'm like, by the way, what's your ethnicity? He's like, I'm Korean and white.
Mm,
And I'm like, what about you? I'm like, I'm 100% Islander,
mm.
100% Polynesian. He's like, oh, you know, and it's just weird seeing how Hollywood sees, you know, race or ethnicity or what they see. Because with Hawaii 5 a lot of people that you see as Hawaiian are Korean and white or Japanese and white. They're not 100% Islander. Um, like the Rockies and black. I'm my tribe were actually his ancestors.
Mm.
Um, I'm from an Aboriginal tribe called the Ami, and we're the great ancestors of the Samoans, Maori, Polynesian, Hawaiians. Like the movie Moana, my tribe were voyagers and fishermen. So I can chase the Maori who do the haka. Their genetics and my genetics are linked, so they're our brothers and sisters. So just it's somehow discouraging just seeing that like how Hollywood, you know, casts people or overlooks,
Do you think that? Do you
like
not to cut you off, but do you think there's a reason for that? Do you think there's a reason why they do a plug and play, right? Because they do it for Black folks too.
yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like they do it for Native Americans. They do it even for
Oh
Mexicans.
yeah,
Like
I played a Native American.
right,
Yeah,
right,
I get it.
right.
Yeah,
So Hollywood does that a lot. They do a plug and play. Like somebody, even when it comes to whites, like somebody can be from England, but they're playing a Scandinavian, right? Like, or they're playing an Irishman and they're trying to have an Irish accent, although they're from America.
yeah.
Do you know why that? Do you know why that is? If you know,
I don't know exactly what it is, but I feel like because it's finding people who are mixed is easier than finding people who are like 100%. Like just like with the Native Americans, you don't can't really find a lot of 100% full-blooded natives.
that's right. That are actors. Yeah, that's right. That's
Yeah,
right. Yeah,
that are actors that are willing to portray that on camera.
that's right.
So they're like, we'll just open a net to anybody if you kind of look native, if you have the long hair like I do. We'll just call you Native American because you have the hair, and because it's easy, it's easy to write that off and being like, all right, cool, we've met our quota. We know we need some people that can, kind of pull it off. You know,
Could it
they
listen?
don't.
Could it also be the fact that the public is I don't listen. I don't want to say anything bad about the public, but the public doesn't know, right? Like for example, I just watched Protege with Samuel
Yeah.
Jackson. Did you see that, or at least see the trailer for Protege? An
I don't think
assassin,
I have.
yeah, like another one of those movies where the young lady is an assassin, like number 52. But she's an assassin and she's playing a girl who's supposed to be Vietnamese, but she's actually Hawaiian. Right,
Yeah,
like, and because the whole time, the whole time I was watching the movie, I was like, she doesn't look Vietnamese, and then you go look. Now, Wikipedia is
yeah,
not
I heard.
necessarily
Yeah,
Wikipedia is not the source to verify anything, but on Wikipedia it says she's from Honolulu or whatever. She's Hawaiian.
yeah,
Yeah,
and it's just like I guess people have predetermined notions.
that's right.
They make assumptions of people's ethnicity. Just like they see me on the street, like you must be native, and I can't convince them otherwise.
Yeah.
They're like, hey, what tribe are you from? I'm like, excuse me, They're
Hmm.
like, well, you're Native American, love the hair, and I'm like, or they just ask me, what are you? You know, I'm
Yeah.
like, well, I'm human.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, I understand that people have a predetermined notions or ideas of what your ethnicity is, and then it's easier to play along with that.
Hmm.
It's easier to cast in that, instead of having to, because actually having to do the work to research and portray it properly takes work, takes time. You might not be able to, because here in Atlanta, there's really no one that really looks like
I was going to ask you that. Like, how was your, I don't want to say upbringing, but how was your high school days and all that kind of stuff? Did you know what I'm
I
saying?
had short hair. I had
Okay.
short hair until a few years ago.
Okay.
So I had a crew cut, but then recently when I grew it out, that's when people were like, hey, this looks way more like you.
Mm.
Um, this definitely fits you. Are you sure you're not native? So that's when I started getting the native questions, um, the Polynesian, the Filipino questions. Um, but growing up, because my adopted family, they're white.
Mm.
Um,
I'm assuming
so
they changed your name when they adopted you.
yes.
Okay.
So yeah,
Yeah.
my name Luke. They gave me when they adopted me.
Yes.
My biological name is Indian, and so my birth name is Indian Lynn, but my adopted name is Luke. So that
Yeah.
always brings up questions
Absolutely.
because especially in college, there's like, hey, Luke McDonald, do you have a Luke McDonald? I'm like, yeah, it's right here. Like, you got a question? I'm like, no, that's me. They're like,
Right.
you're Luke? Yeah.
Mm.
I'm like, yeah. So,
Mm.
um, but yeah, high school, really wasn't. I went to Parkview, so it was kind of a diverse school, so it really didn't feel out of place there. Um, Only when I started growing my hair out and then realizing that no one around me looks like me. When I had shorter hair, I look like David from Lilo and Stitch.
Mm.
Um, and so people were like, "Oh, okay, bro, Hawaiian, cool, or Asian, no big deal." But then didn't really have to explain myself. Like, oh, hey, But then now
Mm.
with long hair, it's more of what are you? What tribe are you from? Kind of like if I had short hair, no one really looked twice.
Is that
But now that I have long hair,
is that a lonely space for you? Being in a space where you don't have a mirror image of who you are. Like you don't have someone else that's where you're from, same facial features, same skin tone. Is that a lonely space for you?
yes and no.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, in terms of there's no one that looks like me. There's no one that I can really be like, hey, you're my brother. Like, we have that Islander bond.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also good in the way that I stand out. I'm not. That's why COVID was really hard on me, is because my physique, my hair, I couldn't be put in a lot of movies because no one looks like me.
Yeah.
I played a werewolf. I played werewolf on a TV show. I don't know if you heard Legacies. I
Mm-hmm.
played a werewolf on that show, and I couldn't, and I stood out. You can't put a wig on me, can't change my clothes and make me look like a vampire.
Yeah.
You know, I don't look like a vampire. I don't look like a witch either.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it is lonely. It's hard, especially being the only Polynesian looking guy, Islander looking guy in Atlanta. It does get lonely. I just feel like a box being checked off on one set.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're like, hey, come on set. Yeah, we want to book you. So I get booked, but never used. Because they want the generic people. So I'm like, look, I don't. It's work, but I don't really get to network. I don't really get to gain more, see what goes on behind the scenes. I like seeing the camera set. I like seeing the blocking. I like seeing the lighting. So I like seeing everything going on. But sitting and holding, for 12 hours, I don't really get to see that.
Yeah.
So yeah, it is. It does get lonely. Just looking around set and like, nope, I'm looking at me now. I'm like, they're like, hey, I'm standing out like dude with the long hair, or what I got, what have I got? Hawaiian dude, or like Indian guy, and they're like, I'm like, I'm not Indian, but sure, okay.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah,
I can
it
imagine
gets
it's
lonely.
tough. Yeah, I can imagine it's tough, man. I'm because I see a lot of the same thing here. Not as nowhere near what you because they do have some black people in movies, but like even when you look at a sci-fi movie, I'm like, and everybody has now moved to Mars. I'm like, wait a minute, no black people have moved to Mars? Like I'm like, what? I'm like in the future, like all black people are non-existent. So most
Right.
definitely, man. Yeah, yeah,
So yeah, it gets discouraging at times,
yeah, yeah,
for sure. But I gotta remind myself, like, just because I look different and I stand out, that can go play in my favor. I'm like, look, I don't want to be stuck in background, so I'm okay not landing background. If I can stand out as a lead, you know, that's all. That's all I want. If I can stand out and go, like, hey, you don't look like anyone else here. We want you.
yeah,
Then it's all worth it.
yeah.
Um, 2.5 years ago, met a friend in college who was like, I was like, hey, what do you do? And she was like, I model and act.
Yeah,
And I was like, man, I really miss acting.
yeah, yeah,
I'm like, it's probably too late for me, because I had the mentality of the sports, because I was trying out for tennis and baseball. I was like, when you start hit a certain age, you kind of closer to your end of your prime. She's like, no, you can join and start whenever. There's no really time constraint, age constraint. So I just started out doing background work. Um, so since I live in Atlanta, it's called. People are starting to say that it's the up and coming new Hollywood. Um, so there's a lot of filming. There's TV shows. I've actually done a lot of background work since I'm just trying to break in, networking that way, doing student films, independent films, short film horror movies, stuff like
yeah.
that. But due to my ethnicity, since I'm Polynesian, ethnically ambiguous, it's hard to find jobs.
Really?
Yeah, it is. There's really
For
no castings for Hawaiians, Polynesians. It's mostly Caucasians, African Americans. They're starting to realize there's the Hispanic population, so they're starting to reach out and
yeah.
cast those,
Mhm.
but still primarily white actors and black actors in a lot of the films.
Well, you know what? I guess I kind of I find that a little bit odd because I guess what I've always thought, and maybe this is just for women. Normally, I guess with women, and maybe that's what it is that I see like ambiguous women. You don't know if they're Hispanic, you don't
Yes.
know if they're black, right? Like J-Lo, right? Like you don't
Yeah.
unless you know that I guess she's Puerto Rican. I guess from New York. I guess unless you know that, you don't know what she is.
True. Yeah. There's a lot of full male. I mean, I'll restate that.
Okay,
There's not many male ethnically ambiguous roles available.
that's right.
There's a
Okay.
lot of roles for female
Hmm.
ethnically ambiguous. There's a lot of looking for Asian females, mixed females. So there's the only roles that I'm able to apply to is all ethnicities, kind of just a broad net kind of thrown. Or Native American.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
I get Native American a lot.
Hmm.
Got to work backgrounds or featured on Native American film. I don't know if you've heard of the Glorious. I was on
Yeah,
set
yeah, yeah. Uh-huh.
in Savannah,
Yeah.
so I was on that. Um, it was actually my networking that actually got me that job. So I actually was on set with a native man named Mondo Silverleaf, and we were on Jungle Cruise that just came out. So we were the South American natives.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
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 And so he got contacted by the casting director for Glorious. And he's like, they're like, we need more Native American looking people. You got any friends?
Hmm.
So since I was friends with him, he, recommended me to him. So I just got this random phone call, and they're like, question, can you play a Native American? And my answer was like, I will play whatever you want me to play. And they're like, awesome.
Right.
So,
Right. Right. Yeah.
networking is definitely a big part of what helped me get the job done. So
Yeah. What was like being on set of that movie? You said Big Cruise, right? I know it's with Dwayne
Yeah,
Johnson,
yeah, Jungle
Jungle
Cruise.
Cruise. Yeah, I because I actually watched it. So, what was it like being on set Did you get a chance to like look at them or see them, or your part was
Oh
just
yeah.
separate? Okay.
Actually, we got to work really closely with them.
Okay.
We're a small group, maybe 20, 25 of us.
Mhm.
So we were on there for 4.5 weeks.
Oh wow. That
Yeah.
man, did you have your SAG card before then, or you're still working on it?
No, still working on that. I'm not going for SAG background, but also here in Georgia, you don't really, there's really no chances for a SAG background because you don't get, um, there's a tax cut here in Georgia. That's why a lot of filmmakers coming down here to Georgia. And there really is no SAG background rate for actors here in Georgia.
Okay.
So the only way you get a SAG card is if you were um, given your day player, given a one liner kind of thing.
Okay.
I have yet to meet someone who has been based out of Atlanta get a SAG background
Yeah.
card. Most of those you find out in LA since you have the SAG background rates. But here, um, all productions have come down to Georgia just because they got the tax cuts. It's a right to work state, so they don't have to give you that SAG background. So
What's the pressure like when you're on a Zoom call? Probably like it's probably like they can put as many people as they want to in the room. So what's the pressure like, if there's any at all?
um, so when I was in this independent film, it was just him and me. For the first three auditions, I read for two different roles,
Mm-hmm.
and then he's like, "We're gonna start weeding people out." So it'll be me, the director and writer, and there'll be two other directors and actors, or three other directors and actors, like standing watching. So you had four other people on that same Zoom call, all standing next to you,
Mm-hmm.
and they're like, "Whenever you're ready." So that was a little intimidating.
Okay.
Um, but since I know the director and the writer, it kind of helps because he started out saying the other people on here, he introduced them, and he's like they've all been on the other side of the camera as well, so they understand the pressure, they understand how you're feeling. You know, don't we don't want you to feel that pressure because we've all been. So we're just gonna rehearse it a couple times, and then whenever you're ready, we can go for it. So, which
Yeah.
is really nice.
Mm.
The difference though between that and I've had to do a cold read before for like a commercial.
Get out.
That
That had to be tough.
that was post COVID. So
Okay.
that was 2019,
Mm.
and so it turned out to be a scam. If that makes sense. Like, have you heard of the scams that they're like, hey, if we wanna, you do a reading for us, you do a cold read. If we like you, we'll offer you a contract.
Mm.
I'm like, oh, awesome contract. Like, well, to get this contract, you pay us $500,
Ah, yeah, yeah,
kind
yeah.
of thing.
Mm.
So before they did all that, they're like, here, have a cold read. I was like, okay, awesome. Never done a cold read.
Yeah.
So I had to try and sell this person a Toyota RAV4, and they gave me the side, which was a paragraph,
Mm-hmm.
and they're like, you have 5 minutes. Never seen the script before. Yeah, you have 5 minutes. We want the first line and the last line verbatim. You have five
Mm.
minutes. I'll come back. So they come back after 5 minutes. They're like, hand me the script whenever you're ready. And I had to like go. And I was just like, I have this whole paragraph at 5 minutes after the first line and the last line
Oh, so
verbatim.
they didn't let you walk around like read from this.
No, they took the
Really?
script from you after 5 minutes and like action, sell it, sell me the rap.
Well,
So
well, I know it turned out to be a scam, but how did you feel like you did, just given that short amount of time?
I've got the first and last line verbatim,
Mm-hmm.
but brain froze in the middle and butchered that. Was not happy at all with how I did.
Yeah.
Well, happy because I actually made it through, and it being my very first ever audition cold read situation. So I realized I had to work a lot more on my improv Because before they offered me the contract, I was like, "There's no way," because I pursued that. But they still wanted to offer me the contract, but they said that I needed to. I froze. I'm like, "Yes, I know. I
Yeah.
blanked, froze, nerves, everything." They're like, "You just need to keep talking." And
Hmm.
I'm like, "I don't own a RAV4. I know
Right.
nothing about a RAV4.
Right.
Um, what what am I supposed to say?" I'm like, "It drives well."
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
So they're like, "Yeah, you gotta fill up that time," and I'm like, "Now I know what I need to work on." So
Yeah.
that was like it was a great experience. So
Yeah.
I know what to do from now on if that ever comes back up. So
But that sounds extremely tough, man, to just kind of, especially if you don't practice that, like improvising your impromptu skills. That
yeah,
sounds really tough. Yeah.
and it was for the first time ever. I walk in, I'm like, "Oh, cool! I got the script. I can I practice
Hmm.
beforehand, having I print out a couple scripts or whatever. Didn't really know what they were gonna give me, so I filmed myself, looking down, looking back up, making sure that it was smooth, wasn't stumbling. But then I get in and it's off script. Five
Yeah.
minutes. Give me the script. Go. Um, so a lot of my friends who are actors, and I talked to them about it. They're like, those are the most stressful because it's you and the director, or you and the boss, and you guys are just your one shot. There's no do overs. It's one take, next
Hmm.
person kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, what are they looking for? Like, I don't like. I'm trying to understand what they would be looking for. I mean, it's like, right? Like, I don't know if they're trying to see how you handle things under pressure. I mean, I think people were going to be better actors with the things that if they have time to prepare. So, what are they looking for? Do you know?
From I I feel like what they're looking for is just smoothness and like
Hmm.
comfortability on camera. So just being able to get on camera, not really knowing what you're gonna say, just now seeing the script. Can you improv? Can you pull it off and not be as nervous?
Hmm.
Can you be able to calm those nerves? Do the best you can, even though you butcher it. Can you still have that confidence, that charisma, that excitement? Like, yes, you're just blowing hot air,
Hmm.
but the energy is there. Like, we want to buy this car. We know you know nothing about the car, but your energy, your smile, your charisma is just there. So they want to see, can you bring that energy, keep that energy, even when inside you're like, mind freeze, I'm going blank, this sucks.
Yeah.
I don't know what to say. So can you keep that energy? Can you keep that charisma?